It is 10 minutes after the hour 7. Well, welcome back to TMS on ETV. It's TMS Sports with OB Knows. And of course, following a brilliant weekend of sports, we have to come and sit down and break down what transpired in the English Premier League. And if you were joining us on Friday, you might have seen these two gentlemen who are sitting right here next to me. They are the hosts of the podcast Two Up Front. And on my right-hand side is Jay Ngomezulu. And on my left-hand side is Chuck Songo. Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
How was the weekend? I mean, well, Sunday alone was filled with action. But how was the weekend for you guys?
It was a good sporting weekend. Just overall, regardless of who you support, we had one of those weekends with like surprise results, lots of goals, and that's what we want to see, especially when watching football. You know, so good weekend.
Speaking of goals. Last night, or in the afternoon, rather in the evening, Manchester City 3-1 down at the St. James's Park. Did you guys anticipate Newcastle to come out the way they did yesterday? Or so did you check?
No, I mean, if you look at how they came into the season, everyone thought Newcastle was going to splash the cash and transform the side. But they added key pieces and they actually become a better side without spending that much money. So I didn't expect Newcastle to win or even give them a scare.
Sure.
But I mean, as the game progressed, I was saying to Jay via text that this is crazy. They are going to score at least one. So when they went 1 up, 2 up, I was like, there it is.
There it is. Kieran Trippier, brilliant leadership from him as well. He's now the captain of the side. What have you made of him as a player in the Newcastle team?
We've seen him in the Prem before when he was playing for Spurs, but his time away from the Prem, where he was then under Diego Simeone, is something that transformed him.
Sure.
In terms of a leader, in terms of the mentality that we do not bow down for anyone, and if you come into our backyard, you come into our house, we're going to give you as good as you're going to get anywhere in the country. So it's good to see him back in the Prem. And when he lined up for that free kick, there was just that feeling that this one is actually going to go in. And he scored the goal that took them 3-1 up. And you were wondering, are we going to get a shock on our hands? But it was a brilliant performance from him and overall by the team as well. Of
course, we are touching on the match against between Newcastle and Manchester City that transpired yesterday. A 3-3 draw at the end of the day, but Man City were really tested. They were really tested out at the St. James's Park. But Chuck, which point of the game did you see a change in Manchester City that told you rather that they would be back in this game?
I don't think there was a particular point in my viewing. I think it was just pressure upon pressure upon pressure. And I think this is what I alluded to on Friday, that having Erling Haaland is a difference, because if you look at the players that Kevin De Bruyne was aiming for in the box, there was Rodri at the back post, there was Diaz at the back post, but there was Haaland in the perfect poacher's spot, and he gets the goal. So I think it was just pressure after pressure, because Nick Pope had a wonderful game. If it's a different keeper, then I mean they probably run away with it. So I think it was just them knocking on the door consistently, and eventually something told.
And I think this is a question I asked you on Friday. You said that Manchester City are going to win the league. Does this type of performance kind of solidify that thought in your mind that they came back from 2 goals down to resurrect themselves? Do you think that is something that solidifies your opinion?
It really does, because if you contrast it to the fact that earlier in the day Chelsea conceded 3 and they lost. When they go 3-1 down, it's similar to the quote from Jay-Z where he says, in every room that he enters as himself and his voice never changes. Manchester City, regardless whether they're playing at home or away, regardless of what the scoreline is or the match situation, they are always going to be who they are. So when they do go 3-1 down, if games were 70 minutes, maybe they'd lose more games. But we saw this towards the end of last season. They went 2-0 down against West Ham, came back for 2-2. Went 2-0 down against Aston Villa, we were thinking, Liverpool, I might actually just take this. But then 5 minutes of Manchester City just putting across their mentality changed the whole thing. So they are never out of the game because they are so brilliantly coached and they are mentality monsters now. And they have a deep, deep belief that they can actually win any game from any situation. So not surprised that they came back, and that does solidify in my head that, well, you go 3-1 up and they're still not out of the game. How do you beat that?
How do you beat that? I want to hear from you at home. What are your thoughts from this weekend's English Premier League action? Are you maybe a Manchester United fan? Maybe you want to give us your prediction for tonight's game. We'll be chatting about that a bit later on in our conversation. But let's move it on to Chelsea. 3-0 defeat against Leeds United, something we didn't expect. Chuck, I know you didn't expect that one. You didn't expect that one. But I want to touch on the defensive pairing at the back. You brought in a Koulibaly who is well over 30. You still have a Thiago Silva in there who's just about to, he's reaching his 40s now, What are your thoughts on that defensive pairing? Were you a bit concerned looking at them yesterday? Do you think that this might be something that this might be something that's prevalent for your defense throughout the season?
I think Thomas Tuchel has got a lot to think about because what you have in Silva and Koulibaly are players with experience. And if you come at them, you won't go past them.
Sure.
But once you bring the element of speed, it becomes a completely different game because you saw from in the first 10 minutes that Koulibaly was struggling. So that's when you want to think about, do I actually play Chilwell along with Cucurella to have that extra speed at the back? Sure. So I think starting off the season and how they closed down Tottenham, I was like, Koulibaly is a wall. He's solid, but against Leeds, it's a different kettle of fish altogether. So I don't think I'd be worried, but I want to make changes and try set them up better because I think he got caught out too many times. And I think he's learning in the league. I mean, you get two good games, but the league is long. The opposition is different. It's not as slow as it is in Italy. So I think if he has to adjust, play a bit deeper.
Would you be concerned if you were a Chelsea fan after what you saw yesterday?
You are concerned if they go a goal or 2 goals down because they don't have any goal scoring. That is their main issue. And if they find themselves in a game where they're going down 3-0, unlike at Manchester City, as I'm saying, you don't know how they come back because you saw Tuchel try to change the system and go to a back 4, which is something that they are not used to. And that's where some of the problems happened towards the end. You see Koulibaly missing a header. You see him, now they're defending further up the pitch because they're chasing the game. And now, as Chuck says, when they have to turn around and he has to chase, he's pulling down a player, So you are concerned if they're not going to have matches whereby they are shutting teams out because in Tuchel's first 30 games, they conceded 17 goals. In his last 30 games, they've conceded 34. So you see now why he keeps going back into the market and buying defenders, which is something that's not new. Pep did the same at Manchester City, kept on buying defenders until $500 million on defenders until he got the right combination. So they're definitely still going to bring someone in because that system depends on the defense being solid.
Speaking of Thomas Tuchel, Todd Boehly is definitely sitting now and working out, the contract negotiations with Thomas Tuchel. How do you judge him if you're Todd Boehly? Are you perhaps looking at, what he's achieved prior? I arrived at Chelsea and looking at, the fixtures, the first few fixtures of the season. How do you judge him and how do you rate him as well as a coach? Do you give him that extension?
Oh, you definitely do because if you look at the fact that when Frank Lampard had all the cash and all the players in his arsenal, he didn't quite produce what Thomas did. Not only did he go and get a European crown, but what he did is he ran City and Liverpool close. I mean, bar from COVID stuff, injuries, and controversial calls, if you go with the Chelsea fans, there's certain referees who are against them. He pushed them quite far. So I think his resume speaks for itself. His playing style is very good and well established. Getting Reece James and Chilwell is something that he's understood. His midfield, he gets his pairings right. It's just the goals that he needs. He tried Lukaku, he tried Werner, so you can't really put him at fault. He's trying to find a solution. But in terms of him being a very good manager, I think, no doubt, back him.
No doubt, back Thomas Tuchel. That is what Chuck is saying. I want to hear from all the Chelsea fans. Of course, it can't be an easy morning as you're stepping into the office this morning. A lot of people are going to be saying a thing or two to you. But yeah, be strong, guys. It's going to happen. Man United are coming tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to happen for Man United. Speaking of which, Casemiro. That was the big topic on Friday evening. Of course, we could have had the chance to speak about it had we known that that deal would have been, concrete and done. What are your guys' thoughts on the signing of Casemiro? What does he bring to Manchester United?
Well, traditionally, if you look back at what he did at Real Madrid, it is that defensive solidity, something that the Manchester United fans have been crying out for a long time. Someone who's going to sit in that midfield and protect that back 4.
Sure.
And he also brings experience. He brings the trophies, he brings experience. There's a winning mentality that he comes with. I would offer a caution though, because for me, when Real Madrid are willing to let go of a player, you must be very careful because when Manchester United signed Varane, I saw Varane in the 2020 Champions League against Manchester City. His best days were behind him after those ties. Similar thing with Casemiro. If you saw him in the Champions League semi-final the season before last against Chelsea, Chelsea were running wild through that Real Madrid midfield, and he did not have any answers. So in the English Prem, now that he's also on the wrong side of 30, as you were asking about Koulibaly, he has to reprove himself at Manchester City, in Manchester United, in a team that's struggling and in a fast-paced environment.
We got to go quickly to take a break, but before we do that, just rounding up the thoughts that Jay just gave us. He is on the other side of 30, so we should be anticipating a decline, which kind of reminds me of a Bastian Schweinsteiger signing, if you guys remember that one.
Oh, yeah.
Give us your thoughts on the signing of Casemiro.
I think he's an upgrade in quality. He's definitely better than what we have in McFred. But I also do have my questions about him in terms of how will he be applied. Will it be a double pivot where someone else is helping him, or can he sit by himself like a Rodri does or a Fabinho does? But I think I'm happy to get someone who's of good quality in the midfield, because it's been years. Before Ole, before Mourinho, before Van Gaal, we were looking for someone good. And then in Schweinsteiger, he was long over the hill. Yeah. And so there is a bit of caution to be had there, but I think it is progress. It is progress.
I want to hear from you as a Man United fan. The signing of Casemiro, does it probably give you hope, after the slow and poor start to the season? Does the signing give you hope? Does it also tell you that maybe my club is going to make, is going to use this last week or these last 2 weeks of the transfer window to, pull up some great players and sign some great players, hopefully to give us a stretch, or to give you rather a stretch in the league. But we take a break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. I want to hear from the Liverpool fans as well. What is your prediction for tonight's encounter? It is the big one for match day 3. Stay tuned to TMS. More is coming up. Warm welcome back to TMS Sports with OB Knows right here on ETV. And we continue our conversation in regards to the EPL. Of course, it's not over yet. The weekend might be over, but there is still some games that will be taking place, and the big one is taking place tonight. Don't judge by the excitement, just because you might think I'm a Liverpool fan. No, I'm not a Liverpool fan. But yeah, I'm joined by Jay Ngomezulu and Chuck Songo, rather, from 2 Up Front. And we're breaking down what we can anticipate for tonight's encounter between Liverpool and Manchester United. Gents, it's been a slow start for both teams. Very slow start, but more concerned. I'm pretty sure most Man United supporters are more concerned about what is going on. But Liverpool come into this game with a very long injury list. Does that maybe take away the quality that we might be seeing from the Liverpool side today?
I don't think it takes away too much, because they're still a very formidable side. I think their biggest weapons are their fullbacks, who are still firing on all cylinders. I think their forward line is I don't think it's greatly affected by them missing out on Darwin Núñez, because Firmino can still do a job. And I think Jay pointed out that Mo Salah is playing more of a creative role, but I think if you bring back Firmino, then he goes back to be their premier target going forward. So I think they're still just as potent as they were. I think they're just unlucky to not get the results, but they played well against Palace, so I think they can still do it.
What have you made of Liverpool, Jay, throughout the season? I mean, it's still early days. They are still trying out some new faces, speaking of Darwin Núñez. But what are your thoughts on them this season?
It's been a difficult start, and some of the things that you hear recently coming out of the camp, where Naby Keita is not happy about not being involved. And you're still seeing a James Milner start in that midfield, and James Milner has been a good utility player over the years, but in terms of trying for a title push, that's not who you should be starting with at this point going forward. Even at the back, Konate is out, Matip is also out. So when you see a Liverpool lineup, Van Dijk is still maybe the best centre-back in the world, but then lining up with a Phillips next to him on the side of Trent Alexander-Arnold, who we know struggles defensively, you get nervous as a Liverpool fan. Also with Mo Salah, you don't actually just want him ending up being the creative player.
Sure.
You want to see him making those runs into the box. You want to see him be up there, challenging for the Golden Boots as well. So. We'll see in the more traditional front 3 that Klopp started with at Liverpool, with Firmino coming in tonight, we suppose, how that's going to look. Maybe it might provide more goals.
Let's say that Liverpool are in formidable form today. Salah plays that role where he's the one who's getting the goals. How do you think Man United should line up against this Liverpool side?
I think now's the time to announce that I am a United supporter, and whatever I'm going to put on the table, it is in our best interest.
Okay, sure.
I've got Shaw at left back.
Okay.
I've got a central pairing of Varane and Maguire. And surprise, surprise, Wan-Bissaka comes back into my side.
I think the surprise is already said. You don't need to say surprise, Wan-Bissaka. But let me ask Jay. Jay, do you agree with this lineup? I mean, it's in the best interest of a Man United supporter.
You know what? I actually would be tempted to play a back 5. And the reason I say that, so and on either side of the middle centre-back, I'd have Lisandro Martinez and Shaw on the left. And then I'd also have Wan-Bissaka and Varane on the right, particularly because Liverpool's creative force, their danger and their dynamism, it comes from those flanks. It is Salah and Trent on the one side, it's Robertson and Diaz on the other side. If you can as much as you can, neutralize them. There's not much threat that comes through the middle.
Sure.
You're not going to get hurt by anyone who's coming from the midfield or even from Firmino himself in terms of goals. So I'd be tempted to ensure that we do not get battered 5 again, as happened last season. So I anticipate a more defensive approach, a more pragmatic approach from Ten Hag and United. And I think that is in their best interest, actually. If they try play Liverpool off the field, they're going to get smacked.
Harry Maguire is in your lineup. Why is it that you have Harry Maguire in there, despite everything that has been said about him, all the performances we've seen from him? Why would you still slot him into this team?
Right, look, I would have gone for a back 5 as well and have a static back 5, not even transitioning to a back 3 when we attack, just to hold this.
Just sit back.
Because I think let's hit them on the counter. But what I've seen of United in the first 2 games is that sometimes they lose the plot, they lose the idea, and they get lost on the field. So I don't want to try new ideas in this game, right? But to explain individual roles, I'd have Shaw on the left to try expose the space that Trent will leave behind. Varane is a defensive calming unit, and I think he needs to lead the line. Maguire is there simply for aerial ability because there's still Abu Van Dijk, Abu Gomez, Phillips to address with aerial balls and set pieces. Maguire is also there to play the passes if he can as an escape route. Wan-Bissaka, I want him to do a man marking job. Hold Luis Diaz if you can. Try shackle him if you can. And what I'm going to add to the team as well, and I want to have a double pivot of Martinez and Fred. Someone wrong with Salah the entire game.
Martinez and Fred.
Yeah. We'll sacrifice creativity and try hit them on the counter because I think if you're too open, you're going to get hurt. If we find something stable where we can put grit and have a simple game plan, we might have a chance.
You might have a chance. You might have a chance. I wonder if you at home as a Man United fan, do you feel like you've got the chance? I mean, Jay's already shaking his head. So no chances for a shock today?
Always a chance because it's football. You know, you can never count anyone out. But I'd be very shocked if this is the game that Manchester United put some points on the board for the first time. I think Liverpool are seeing how Manchester City have started, and they had some respite with the draw. And you want to get back up there as soon as you can. And Manchester United are a wounded team, and you want to play them right now.
Speaking of a wounded team, let's say this game is a successful one, but the remainder of the season, how do you see it going? And do you think that Erik ten Hag will actually finish off the season?
I think he should because in pre-season at least, it seems like the team understood what he wants from them. They were scoring goals, they were finding each other in the patterns that he wants them to play in. And I think what let him down is that when he began the season, he didn't have the players that he wanted at his disposal. So in the last week of the transfer market, I think he's going to push for 2 more signings. There's a Gakpo that's spoken about. Anthony still looks to be acquired. I don't know about De Jong. Seems like that's dead in the water. But I think if you get him the players and you give them a bit of time, they will acclimatize and do something great. So I think keep him for at least 2 years, see what he can do. And I think, look, it's been a crazy weekend. Chelsea lost, City conceded 3, Arsenal the only unbeaten side. So why not us? Let's shock the world.
Chuck wants to shock the world. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me this morning. That is the 2 hosts of the podcast, the 2 up front, Jane Gomezulu and Chuck Songo, joining us this morning on The Morning Show. They will be back to chat some more EPL action as the season goes on and on and on. So we'll make sure that we keep you updated with everything that is going on in the English Premier League. We take a break. When we come back, Josi is standing by with your news.